Welcome to the Talk and Chatter experience powered by Gasoline Alley Harley Davidson and M33 Productions. For all your photo and video requirements, get in touch with us today. My special guest for this week's show is 2021 Australian Supersport Champion, Broc Pearson. Broc's journey of winning 8 junior dirt track titles to a near career-ending accident in 2017 and obviously becoming the 2021 Supersport Champion is a truly inspirational one. I hope you all enjoy this conversation as much as I did. If you get the chance, head over to our YouTube and hit subscribe. Welcome, Broc Pearson.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
2021 Australian Supersport Champion. How does it feel, mate?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Like, it's actually, because the championship ran quite late, like, obviously we're going into this season quite fast, and, you know, I've had to turn my focus pretty quick into adapting to the Superbike and getting some training in. So, yeah, look, it's great, and I've sort of, aimed for that for a couple of years through my injuries, and I'm really proud that I could sort of pull that off last year.
Mate, it's a massive achievement, and you've been on the cusp of that for a few years too. Must feel pretty rewarding, yeah?
Yeah, because really my first full season that I got under my belt in 600s where I didn't have an injury, I come runner-up. And then, 2 years ago in 2020, obviously we had that first COVID year and we only had one round at the start and the end. And at the beginning of the year, I was injured from some rods that I got taken out of my femurs, so I had a horrible first round. And then I actually went on to win the last round of the championship, but because I'd had such a bad beginning, I finished fourth in the championship, so that was a bit of a setback. But yeah, I pulled it together last year to put it all the pieces together.
So that was the World Superbike opener, wasn't it?
Correct.
So
yeah.
World Superbike opener. And where did it finish that year? Was it Taylor Bend as well?
No, went to Wakefield. So we raced in February, I believe, or March. Oh, yeah, February. And then we went all the way down to December before we even raced again. So, yeah, I had my femurs, my rods taken out of my femurs in January. And then I couldn't really walk in February, but I thought it's okay. I got to get my one round in, and then I can sort of start ticking away through the year. And we just didn't get time to do that. So when you got 2 rounds of a championship, pretty much, there it goes.
Yeah, it was like that was such a strange one. That was a real weird one because, like, what happened was that's probably that race meeting that weekend was the last race meeting for anyone in the world.
Yeah.
Basically at that time, Yeah,
so it was crazy.
World Superbike happened and then the world basically stopped. So that's a pretty weird one to sort of start with. So who's Broc Pearson?
Well, I am 21 years old. I'm obviously based in Gold Coast. I've been racing motorbikes all my life. I started through the tracks of dirt track. And recently went into road racing probably 6 years ago now. So I've had quite the path to get to where I am now. But it's 2022 and I'm lining up on a Superbike. So I've had a bit of a good run so far.
Mate, that's going to be an awesome experience. Like I know you had a outing on Troy's CBR last year.
Yes.
Then you had an outing on an R1 as well, which you'll be racing this year. How did it feel when you first got onto those?
When I first got onto it, it was quite. It was crazy to understand how much more acceleration they have. That's the big turning point. They're obviously a little bit heavier, but you don't really pick up on that too much because obviously when you're carrying a bit of speed, the weight sort of lightens. But it took me a little bit to get used to it, and I've had a bit of a wake-up call with the amount of crashes I've had on it and just sort of trying to push and that sort of thing. And, I had that R1 outing at Morgan Park, and that's the bike I'm racing this year. And I thought I did pretty well considering, it was my first proper weekend on the bike and that sort of thing, and it was still relatively standard. But because Ollie and Jonesy were there and they were sort of, going as fast as anyone ever had, it was a difficult weekend to get straight into it and, try and get out on track because really I didn't let it come to me. I sort of tried to rush things because, as a race, you always want to try and do your best to, keep up with the people in front. And, I had a couple of crashes that weekend, but I think this year is going to be quite good just based off of what we showed so early.
Mate, I did the commentary for that round.
Yes.
And with Scotty at the time, and it was a pretty cool outing to watch, actually. So, obviously, as you mentioned, Ollie and Mike, they're on a cracking pace. If ASBK came there at that time of the year, that would have been a huge pace to have.
Absolutely. I think those two boys would have been on for, race-winning pace. So, I believe that would have been the pace at ASBK, and to sort of see where I was at, I struggled a little bit in the races, actually, to get through the couple guys in the beginning of the races because I was struggling to get off the line. But my lap pace, when I would, get some clear track, maybe I was 2 to 3 tenths slower than Ollie and Mike a lap, maybe a little bit more, but give or take. And that's not too far away considering, the package and the first weekend sort of thing.
So that was a relatively stock R1?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had no motor work and, we were lacking some suspension on the front. It just had it didn't have the standard cartridge, obviously, but it didn't have the top of the range cartridge either.
Yep.
And yeah, it just just a bunch of other things. Still had standard harness on it, and a few other things. So look, it wasn't standard, but it also wasn't race ready.
Yeah, okay. That makes perfect sense. And just seeing you trying to launch it, now you've refreshed my memory and things like that. That must be difficult getting straight onto that race start first time on that bike.
Yeah, it was. And I wasn't getting off the line very well, and I was alongside obviously Ollie and Mike, and those Ducatis get off the line very well. And Corey Turner and Wagner are also very good starters. So they were getting off the line better than me, and I had to get through those guys to try and move towards the front. And and Wagner, for one, is a very hard guy to pass on the brakes. He's very strong. And so is Corey, So getting through those guys, it's my first week on a 600, and then I'm having to put some big passes on some fast guys just to get through. Like, it was a little bit overwhelming at times to try and, then run with those Ducati boys and that. And I didn't really give myself that time to, just let it come to me. But all in all, like, that weekend went the way probably I wanted it to anyways. It gave me a bit of a realistic where I'm at and that sort of thing.
For sure. And strength-wise, how'd that feel straight away?
Yeah, not bad actually, because obviously I carry a taller build. It does help a little bit on the bigger bikes and that sort of thing. And I'm probably in the best condition I have been in a few years. So yeah, strength-wise, I think I'm pretty good, and my fitness is all right. It's more just bike fitness. You can be as fit as you want to be, but if you don't have a bike fitness, you lack that. So I lacked the seat time on that bike, and in regards to that, then I struggled a little bit with my fitness on the bike, but that'll come with the more laps I do.
For sure. Tell us about the journey to get here. Like, obviously dirt track, Gold Coast, Hatches?
Yes.
So Hatches growing up, what is it, 8 titles?
Yes.
Huge, mate.
Yeah, so I had a really good run while I was in flat track, and to be completely honest, I wanted to become, when I first started riding, I loved watching motocross, and that was sort of what I wanted to take. But yeah, so I obviously did a lot of flat track for about, between the age of 4, I probably started and finished up around 12, 13. And in that time, like you mentioned, I won 8 Australian Championships, and it was pretty full on. Like, it was racing every week, and it was like soccer events, you're riding Saturday, Sunday, traveling to Brisbane, Gold Coast, then you're going to Sydney. Like, it's very full on. And yeah, that was really enjoyable. And then I tried to go motocross, and I was okay at it, but I was not good enough. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I sort of turned and went, okay, that's not my direction. And I tried speedway and just didn't really enjoy it. And then I gave road racing a go, and to be honest, I was no good at it to begin with either, but I really enjoyed it. Yep. So I thought, maybe I'll start heading down this direction. And it was only probably 8 months then before I ended up in Asia racing. So it was pretty fast, it happened pretty quick.
Yeah, that's a very fast track, isn't it? For come straight from, dirt track and everything. That's pretty much jump straight into it. Yeah,
like it did happen quick, but I was doing a lot of riding at that time. I was still at school and that, so I was getting early days to go riding and that sort of thing. And yeah, when I ended up landing in Asia, I also was a bit behind, but it's like anything, you learn quite fast if you're a natural to it, and then you start to build up speed. So yeah, I had a slow start in the beginning in Asia, but I think, when I started in Asia, maybe I was like between the 15th and 20th place guy, and then I won the last race of the year. So I had a pretty good, progress through the season.
Yep. Where did it start on the flat track? Did you start right at Pee-wees, or did you KXs or whatever?
Yeah, so like I have shocking memory, but I know from just my knowledge that I actually started on a Pee-wee out at like the back of Movie World. There used to be an oval section over there where my dad used to take me. Started over there on some training wheels, and my dad was into motocross as well, so that was why I sort of wanted to go to motocross and that sort of things. But he thought he'd put me into flat track first because it was a bit safer and that sort of thing, which it definitely is.
Yep.
So I started down there, and then went to Mike Hatches by the age of 4, and that's how that sort of took off. Yeah,
mate, that is a club that's like grown champions. Hey, if you look at their ranks through, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's so surprising. I think they hold themselves to the track of champions or something like that. But they really pull it off, because there are some guys that have raced there in the past, and have gone on to win world championships, and that's not an everyday club that just based near like a shopping centre like Harbour Town and Gold Coast that can produce that many champions. So it's pretty impressive.
Absolutely, and like it literally is. It's in the hub of shopping and industrial. It's not something that's just some iconic place out in the bush. No. It's it's a pretty special place, really.
It is.
Still going, eh?
Yeah, it is. So I still try. Well, I was riding there a little bit last year. I did a practice day there, I think, with Herfoss. He took his bike down. We went for a run. I try and go there as much. Like I was doing some coaching down there for a little bit, but like, it's very hard to juggle up racing, work, then get to a local club. And I haven't been there in a while just based off of time. But it's still operating. I think it's still going very well.
Yeah, it's good. Because I know for a while there was issues with the typical issues of having a track in an area. And they've seemed to rectify it. And I believe they're still running junior events and everything like that there a bit more,
Yeah, I think they've still got some issues that they're trying to band-aid, but like it's so difficult. Like we said, they're in the heart of like the Gold Coast, and people are always going to react to a bunch of noise. So, but I think they're doing their best to monitor it, and as long as they can keep doing that, it should keep running.
It's cool.
Yeah,
it's really cool. So, junior titles. Did it start on KTM? I'm guessing you're the age group that come through for KTM 50s and that, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so like I started on the Division 2s and, and that's why I say it was pretty big, like going down to Canberra and that when you're like, 6, 7 years old to race Australian titles, like it's pretty full on to start it, and you don't really realise how natural and like, that's why I said to someone last year when they mentioned, my championship and how hard I'd worked that year to get there. But it's like, this is not just 1 year, since, age of 5, 6, you're traveling Australia, you don't really realise it, but it's like your life gets so consumed to just this world, and so I started racing those 50cc's doing my first Australian championship was down in Canberra, and then after that I got onto 65s and 85s, and then all of a sudden, it was like 4 Australian championships a year that we were contesting at, and it was very far away. Most of them, some of them like West Warralong, Townsville, Mackay. Like it was pretty full on,
And you go into school, like this is the unreal part of rocking up to school on probably Monday morning, Tuesday some days for the big ones. But it must feel weird rocking back into school after being Australian dirt track champion or something, eh?
Yeah. Look, I usually tried to like roll in pretty like low key. I was a little, not like shy. I'm not shy by all means. I'm probably the opposite of shy. But, sometimes I just didn't like to brag about it or something like that. But my mum would always call the school, let them know, and half the time she wouldn't tell me. And then we get to like our first school, whatever they're called, where
like assembly or whatever.
And then I get caught up and I'm like, crap,
Yeah, it's on.
It's on here, and then, so that was a constant thing, every couple of months getting up on assemblies for winning the titles and things like that. But it sort of made me who I was. And, even growing up to, high school and that, it was kind of a good thing for people to know where I was at with my racing, because then they respected my, my direction and the things I wanted to do. I wasn't a partier and I wasn't a drinker and that sort of thing. And obviously when you go through high school, people start to turn to that and start to, do a bit of that and enjoy it. But my mates were really good with that sort of thing. They respected where I was at, and, I had my, obviously my responsibilities with racing, and towards the end, I'm pretty glad it, made me who I was, and everyone knows me as that, and, that's that.
That's your identity.
Yeah, correct.
Built around that.
Yeah.
With that, I guess jumping up in front of assemblies and stuff like that, you're somebody that you give a lot back to your sponsors. Is that all you?
Yeah, look, it is. Like I do all my social media.
You do?
Yes, correct. I do all my marketing, and I try and chase all my sponsors myself and do everything. I'm a strong believer in, going out and doing it yourself. And I believe if, you're trying to approach someone, you should be doing it yourself, because it's got to be coming from that place, So I've always tried my best to market myself and give back to the people that help me. It's very difficult because I actually struggle with it a little bit. Because I deal with them all myself, when people start to help out financially and support me, it's great. But then I start to build a bit of a friendship with the people that are helping. And then it's a bit like, it's hard taking things from people that you start to look to as your friends and that sort of thing. But you got to look at it like a business, and these people want to help because they want to help, try and make you succeed. And that's the way you got to look at it. But it's very time consuming, as talking to people, and there's a lot of knockbacks and rejection and that sort of thing. But you just got to keep ticking, because if you don't do that, you don't go racing.
That's it. It doesn't, budgets just don't go on trees.
No.
It's such a hard thing, and it's an expensive sport.
Yes.
And I really acknowledge what you do with yours, because you do give a lot back. I know you had a couple of long-term sponsors as well that you do repeat sort of things with.
Yes.
Like things like giveaways and this and that. Obviously, that doesn't come from just having no relationship with the sponsor either, yeah?
No, absolutely. And, these sort of things, I really put my foot forward, even if someone, I want to try and do some product giveaway, if I've got to cover it myself to do the giveaway, I'll do it, because, putting in a little bit to give away some product is not what they give. They give a lot back more to you during the year. So I try and do my best to share that, to show that I'm appreciative and that sort of thing. And if it's going to help grow them and help grow me, like that's what matters. I got to try and, the world revolves around now in how many numbers you get and whether that means likes, followers, viewings. That's the world counts on numbers. So, if you can grow your numbers, then you're doing the best you can.
That's right. You're doing your job. And it's, I had a chat with a marketing manager of a reasonably big company the other week, and they had somebody approach them for sponsorship.
Yep.
And had come with a couple of titles as well, and not in the biking world, but come with a couple of titles in their world. And it was like, how many followers you got? Straight away was the first question.
Yes.
But I've got, I'm the best in my sport. Sometimes it's reversed a lot these days, hasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it has. And that's the thing, like big businesses sometimes don't even reach out to people that are related with what they're doing, but if they've got numbers, they can build up what they're doing, and then they've got the numbers to show for it. So yeah, it's a big numbers world, and it's hard, especially when, you're trying to grow yourself. And like me, I don't have that much of a name to myself in terms of, if the random person didn't know racing, they don't know me. So you have to try and do the best you can to pull these numbers. And yeah, that's all businesses count off nowadays, really, in terms of marketing, if they really want something, to give back. But yeah, I've done pretty well with the ones I have currently to sort of, of course they love that I can promote back and market, and I don't have a bad following. It's quite good, but in a way I've been quite lucky that they're very supportive of me in general, and they know that I have, a little bit of speed on a motorbike, and they would just want to simply help. So, it depends on who you land with. Some companies care about your numbers, but there are people out there that want to help because they want to help you succeed.
Sure. Yeah, they want to be part of that journey.
Correct.
When you got the Supersport Championship, did it open extra doors?
To be honest, the championship did not open a door specifically, but the way I rode this year opened a door. So my ride this year.
Yeah, I said to you at the start, this is hard to figure.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? My ride this year was pretty much already done prior to that championship. And yeah, whether I won that championship or not, I don't believe it would have changed where I am right now. But the way I rode all year is what opened that door. So the actual championship itself was one big picture that has helped me. But that actual one race was all me, that was for myself. And it was actually quite good. There was not much pressure on myself, like I knew at the end of the day, whether I won it or not, there was nothing on the line. It was all just for me, I just wanted it. So yeah, the way it unfolded was actually quite, good because I didn't have that pressure. And then once it was all done, I had a lot of relief, obviously, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I won't forget that day. It was pretty special. I said this is either going to be the worst 21st someone can have or the best, So I had a pretty good 21st birthday, and it'll go down as a good one.
Gives me chills you're talking about it, because like watching it live, obviously, man, Tom, Max, awesome, like strong competitors. Must be pretty hard, eh?
Yeah, and like I think that was the best thing that could have happened this year, because I had spent 3 years in the class, and I didn't want to be known as that guy still in the class, but obviously I had so many injuries. Like I had one full season prior to this year, Wow. So that just shows I really did not, the guys that had 2 years where I'd had 3 probably had more races under their belt than I did. But yeah, Max and Tom obviously brought a strong level of racing this year, and that's why I think it's quite good that the level got brought up. The times dropped dramatically, like maybe a second and a half everywhere we went, like at Winton. I believe where we finished in the second race, because the Superbike race got brought back in laps because of a crash, we ran the same total distance. And like I think my total time when I won the race would have put me like 7th in the Superbike class. So, like it's pretty big, like imagine a 600 rolling around there, in top 10 of a Superbike championship. So, yeah, the championship was really strong this year in our class, and the boys rode really well. And I'm glad it turned out to go to like, my plan into that weekend was not to take it to the last race. I did not want that to happen. But on Sunday's morning's first race, I rolled out and had a little bit of an issue with the bike, and I had a lot of moments trying to push on. Yeah. And I got caught up in a little bit of like a stress sort of situation, because I didn't really want to be there. And I had to sort of give that race away because it was gone in the first 2 laps.
Yep.
And then, like, it's probably the most full-on 4 hours between the first race and second race because my head was sort of blown a bit. And I'd had such a good weekend. Like, I led every session and pole. And then in the first race, I was 5 seconds off the win, and I had to pick that up. And in the second race, it was all on from the start. And it turned out to be a great one. And like I said, I'm glad it went that way because it's quite a cool way to win the championship.
Mate, it was like right on, you won by, what was it, 6,000 to the second?
Yeah, 500s.
500s, was it?
500s or 5,000s, I'm not sure.
There's that, you're talking about,
much.
A feather. Talk about race one. What like, I've been around Superbike racing and that long enough. Not much usually changes between the first and the second, really? How do you change that? What happened?
Yeah, so really all weekend we were running on quite a light fuel tank. And like this just shows, we just got, I don't know, carried away. We just usually would be on it. And anyways, we were running on quite a light fuel tank all weekend for the practices and the qualifyings because, at most tracks you can sort of do a race run in the practice sessions quite easily. But at the bend, the tyres tear so quick, you don't really want to be doing race runs because you're just chewing through tyres.
Yep.
So we didn't really do a race run prior to the race and we didn't do a race run on the right fuel. So going into the race, I had probably ran a maximum of 7 litres all weekend and then we went to 13.
Yeah.
So we ran an extra 6 litres, which is, 6 kilos. And I think the problem there was, for one, I was, hitting the bottom on the brakes because the fuel was pushing so hard forward.
Yep.
And then vice versa, when I got on the throttle, it was unloading so fast. So really, we completely fluffed it. Like and us as a team, and we didn't pick up on that and it ruined my first race dramatically. I couldn't ride the bike. I couldn't brake as hard as I want to. And I really rely on the brakes when I ride.
Right.
So the way that I couldn't ride just, completely stuffed it. So, I'm not sure if you watched the first race, but I almost had a big crash in the second lap, I think. Mm-hmm. And instantly I went, and I knew in my head, because I could feel myself hitting the bottom, I went, we didn't counteract for this fuel, and that's what I was thinking in my helmet. And
so you knew that at that point?
100%. Yeah, I felt like the bike was a little bit heavier on the brakes. And as soon as I realised it was unloading, I knew it was from the fuel. Wow. And in my head, I knew I was on the brakes, so I wasn't going to be able to push any harder. Otherwise, I was probably going to land on my head, and that was why when Max actually pulled himself into me, I kind of gave him that position because at the end of that race, whether I finished second or third, I had to win the last race because it was only going to be, I would have gone into the last race either 1 point in front or 3, and it's 5 for the win.
Yep.
So as soon as I could see that Max was on his way, I handed it straight to him because there's no reason for me to engage in a second or third place finish when I've still got to win the last race.
Yep.
So, I probably backed off a little bit, gave him that space and, Tom went on to quite a dominant win because of it. But I had to make sure I did the right thing. I could have taken it to the last race or pushed on and blew it out the way, and had nothing. So, then obviously that gave Tom the confidence because he kind of dominated that first race. And I don't really ever kind of hold myself as cocky or anything like that. But by all means, between that first and second race, I was a little bit like, crap,
we're in for it here.
We're in for it here. We'd had, when did we race at Winton? Wakefield, I should say, maybe March, April or something, So we've had 5-6 months between these 2 rounds where I've led the championship.
Yep.
And I had put so much thought into it, every day I had rode out of my driveway to go ride my push bike or go to the gym. It was all because I need to win this first race and get a points buffer.
Yep.
And then it didn't go that way.
So you thought about that the whole time?
Oh, absolutely. Every day, So, and that's why people say, I worked a lot, but it's so mentally in your head, every day you ride and, everything you do, it's related back to that. So it's so difficult to come to terms with. You have to be realistic in the situation between the moments, whether you're going to win it, lose it, and obviously you're going to give it your all.
Yep.
But in your head, you're thinking, God, I have put in so much work, don't want to fluff it.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. So after I won that race, it was more relief. All year I worked my ass off to get that. And the fact that I could achieve that for myself, that was, great. That was the big picture.
It must have been just the immediate release. You just so much tension. probably a horrible person to be around for a little bit before.
Yeah.
I could only imagine.
Yeah.
You probably weren't, but if it was me, I would have been a horrible person for that time leading up to it.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't want to talk to anyone.
Yep.
It was that simple, you know, and mainly because I didn't want to like, put too much thought into it. I didn't want people saying things, and you know, like even prior to the weekend, you know, the media were trying to get a little bit out of us and who's going to win it. And I simply said to them all weekend, I just want to enjoy my weekend. You know, I was very, very stressed, and I don't want to put that extra position of myself to say I'm going to smoke this thing, you know. So, you know, but then after the first race, Tom said on the podium, and you know, fair play to him, you know, he's playing the game that he won, had plenty up his sleeve for the next one. And so I was pretty pissed off because, you know, I just didn't vibe with it. And like I had obviously cleaned up all weekend, and then we made such a silly mistake in that race. So I was pretty annoyed, didn't want to talk to anyone. And then pretty much like between the first and second race, even on the grid, like I barely talked to anyone, didn't really talk to my dad. And then my dad sort of, you know, come to the grid, and when we're sitting there, he sort of said, mate, you know what to do. It's that simple, you know, just go and do it. And really that was all that had been spoken about. Obviously a lot had gone through my head, but like out in terms of like talking, there was not a lot.
Wow. What a tense pit to be around at that time, you know, and understandably so. Like you're going for something that you've worked your life for. Yeah,
and like, you know, I had organised the championship winning helmet and a couple of things like that, which Ollie had. And it was quite funny because I hadn't seen the helmet and I didn't want to see it. And if I didn't win the championship, I probably never would have seen it. You know, I wouldn't have wanted to, but I gave it to him. And between the first and second race, like he would have been thinking, am I going to give him this helmet? Where am I going to give him this helmet?
Yeah, where's he at too?
Yeah, 100%. And I didn't even talk to him, you know, because I was like, I don't want to mention this helmet, you know. I don't want to talk about if I'm going to win, what I'm going to win. I just got to go and do the job and stop worrying about that stuff. And then, you know, I went across the line and won the race. I was like, shit, crap, where's my helmet?
Yeah,
you know?
I want this thing.
I was like, we haven't organised this at all, you know. And that's how, like, there was just no communication between those races. And, Ollie just did his best to run down to the end of pit lane. And, it was it's pretty emotional for me, and obviously Ollie's one of my best mates, and it was pretty cool to, you know, meet him down there in pit lane and then be able to chuck the lid on and ride down to my team and that sort of thing. Mainly for myself and my dad, we've been through a lot, and that was like a really special moment for us.
Mate, and to, you know, share it with your dad and Ollie. That's, you know, as you say, one of your best mates.
Yeah.
Pretty cool experience on home soil.
Yeah, 100%, you know, and obviously my mum and that were watching at home with some friends, and my girlfriend was actually at work, and like we've been together for a long time, like 4 years actually today. But anyways, she was working, so she couldn't watch the race, and, you know, she messaged me a little bit between the first and second race on her break at work, and I just said to her, it didn't go good, and, you know, I don't want to talk. So I'll talk to you later on, you know, and that was sort of the way it rolled. So there was a bit going on, but we, as a team, like, you know, we've worked really hard for that. So it's very personal, and it's a very small group of guys that put in, and, you know, we leave work for it, and, you know, we put in a lot and we sacrifice a lot. So for me to be able to at least give that back to them, because the guys working on the bikes, it means as much to them as it does to you.
Sure.
You know, like, especially if, like, obviously my dad is my dad, but even the guys leaving their works they come and do it because they enjoy it. And they don't want to go home as well, you know, without that feeling that they've done that. So it was pretty special for all of us.
Have you spoken to Tom?
Which one? Edwards?
Yeah.
Prior to leaving, no. So we have like quite an interesting rivalry. Like, we've raced together on dirt track all our life.
Yep.
And to be kind of fair, it's like we didn't really socialise that much when we were young and growing up, and we always raced together and we always wanted to beat each other, and it was that simple. And obviously Tom went to Europe and did a little bit of racing over there, and while I was still racing here, and he's come back, and it's funny how our paths have like recollided, you know, from when we would have been racing, you know, 13, 14 years ago.
Wow.
So, but like away from the track, we don't talk a heap, but like really as a person, like, we have a really good sportsmanship between us, and that's what matters most, I believe. Like, you know, like after that race, he was one of the first to congratulate me, and I respect that a lot, because I know if I was in his situation, I would be pretty pissed off, and I'd be very, you know, probably cranky. And, you know, to be honest, I'm a good sport as well. I would have gone over there and handshook him, but the way he handled it was very well, and I respect that a lot.
Yep.
So, Yeah, look, going into next year, I think he's staying on a 600, and I believe he's probably going to be obviously the one to beat. And I hope he has a good year. And I'm very appreciative that we were able to at least have that respect this year while we were racing, because not once did things get a bit nasty on track or like that. We had clean racing and we went down to the wire a few times. So no, I'm very happy how our rivalry went this year.
It's a business, really, isn't it? Like racing motorcycles is a business.
Yep.
With a couple of friendships along the way, I guess.
Yeah, and that's it. And like, I really don't have too many. Like, I talk to a lot of guys at track. Obviously, I talk to everyone, but I don't really carry a friendship for many besides a couple of guys that I talk to away from the track. Mainly Ollie is one guy I deal with outside of racing, like just personally. So that's why, like I said, this year I was glad that it went that way and everyone held respect for each other. But like, I believe the Superbikes is a different kettle of fish, and it'll be interesting to see which way that way goes, because I don't have a relationship with too many guys in the Superbike class, and you really just don't know how things will go till it happens. You know what I mean? Yeah,
definitely. With the Superbike class this year, did you read the article MZ News Trevor Hedge put out this week about all the different things? And
I did read a fair bit of it, actually. I mostly read through some of the comments that were.
Don't get into the comments.
Yeah, I know.
I did too.
Yeah, so I read a little bit of it, but like, to be honest, I don't really read into social medias. Like, I use social media as a way to keep in contact with people. But I also don't really socialise on reading into things and that sort of thing. I kind of, a couple of years ago when I had my injuries and things, I went into this like weird sort of circle where I just looked into things too much and looked into depth of bikes and things. And this year, the last couple of years, I really pulled back on my social medias and just, enjoyed riding my motorbike and posting about myself and keeping it simple. And like I said, my way of contacting people through social medias for messages is, but in terms of articles, I don't really read that many unless they're involving me.
Yeah, fair call, fair call. This one was more so, and the part I'll touch on was, the series that we've got coming up this year for ASBK.
Yep.
Mate, it's a deep field.
Yeah, well, that's actually what's surprising. Like, I said to my dad the other day, like, obviously the field, there's not too many new riders coming in, but there's a lot of riders that are on a stronger package than they were, and it's going to bring everyone a lot closer. Like, the guys like Wagner and Crew Halliday were both, they're both obviously very good riders, and they struggled a lot with the Dunlops this year.
Yes.
You had Brian Starring and Josh Wooders that both struggled on Dunlops. And you got Brian that's now lining up in the Ducati. Very good package.
Yep.
You got Josh Waters lining up in the BMW. Very good package.
Yep.
You have Halliday and Jonesy now in the Yamaha, both on a good package with the tyres.
With Pirellis.
Pirellis, and then you got Glenn, who's at a bit of he's coming back to a very good form. Then you've obviously got Herfoss, you've got Maxwell, Arthur Sissies. These are like up to 10 guys that some years, without being rude to them, you could count them out based on their package. You can't count them out anymore because everyone has really sacrificed that, if they've had a fault of a package that they've been helped with, product that they've just had to deal with. Everyone this year's kind of gone, no more.
We want to win this.
We want to win.
Yeah.
So, like, I think for my way to go into the Superbike year, like, it's probably going to be one of the toughest fields. So, it'll be interesting. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be to begin with, but by all means, like, I'm a racer. We're all raced to win, and I want to win a race by the end of the year, and I believe because I want to, I reckon I'll be able to do it at some point. So who knows when, but I believe I can.
It's I think you can too, and I agree 100% with the packages as well. Like, I look at it, and the Yamahas on the Pirellis is going to be a good thing.
Yeah, well, even just from seeing Crew's form recently at Sydney, at the night races, like, he wouldn't have been there 3 months ago on that package.
Yeah.
So, and obviously Herfoss and Allerton, I think, on the weekend with Josh Wooders were all riding together, and they were all like 4 guys cram-packed. Yeah. And that's just 4 at a night race.
Yeah, that's right.
You bring all these other guys, I believe it's going to be the same story. It's going to be very close.
And 8 rounds, 8, total different tracks. Like, we've brought QR back into the fold this year.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting because for me, like, really in the last 2 years, like, I've done 4 rounds. So, and then this year we've got 8 and going to a couple of tracks I've never raced at, like Darwin, and I believe we're going back to Tassie or somewhere like that. I can't remember which track there is. I can't remember if we're going to Barbagallo or not, or somewhere. There's somewhere else I haven't been either.
Right.
Anyways, So it's obviously going to be a very busy year for me, which isn't going to be something that I've been used to in the last couple of years. But I think that's going to be the best way to get onto a Superbike, to start, ride a lot.
Yep.
So I believe that should help me progress. And there's a couple of tracks on the calendar I really like. And QR actually is a strong track for me in the past when I've rode smaller bikes. I've always done well there. And obviously we'll get to go back to Morgan Park this year for the first time in a couple of years. And that alone I think is going to be really good. Like, I think even not having Morgan Park this year on our championship really made things difficult for me as well, going to tracks I hadn't tested at in 2 years, and which I think was the biggest thing. It still showed my speed because I was going there and doing so well. And these tracks like Wakefield and Winton are within Morgan Park distance for us, for Tom and Max.
Yep.
And while we were doing a little bit here at Morgan Park, like I smashed a lap record on my 600 by a fair bit, and then we didn't get to race here. Max come up for one of the club rounds. And I believe it just showed, a little bit of home track knowledge. We're having 7 lap races and I was able to put 5-6 seconds into a win, Yep. So I was pretty bummed that we didn't get to race at Morgan Park this year, because I think I would have had a bit of a weekend to show, that's what home track does.
Yep.
So yeah, really this year I jump onto a Superbike with coming back to Morgan Park and QR. I think that's going to be really good for us Queenslanders to be able to equal things out, because in the last couple of years we've always just been going south.
Had to trouble, eh?
Yeah. Yep.
Definitely had to travel. And first proper test is Phillip Island, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've got one ride at next Thursday at QR, and then we head down to Phillip Island, so in the following week. So it's all come up so fast,
Us too, yep.
Yep, it's 1 week after. So, yeah, it's all coming up very fast, and it'll probably take me a few days to sort of get used to things. But I think by round 1 I should be okay. Like, I haven't rode the bike since that Morgan Park weekend, which was a few months ago.
Yep.
And that was mainly because I thought, I need to get off this R1 because I've got to go race my 600, And actually I got off it to try and ride my 600 more, and then I didn't really end up getting back on my 600. So when I went to the bend, I hadn't rode it for like 5 months, which was a long time off that bike.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how next Thursday goes. It'll be a good thing for our team to have a bit of a shakedown and see where we're at, and hopefully it's not too far away.
Someone that comes from a dirt track background like yourself, places like QR, Morgan Park, hard braking zone areas, that's got to be a beneficial place for you to ride, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's something that helps a lot of us dirt trackers and things like that. And I think that's probably one of my main beneficial parts as well, is like a braking area. So, yeah, definitely going to places like QR, Morgan Park. And I believe that's why even I was quite strong at Wakefield, Winton, these tight, braking tracks. But I don't think we're going back to Winton this year. So go back to Wakefield. But I even believe, Wakefield as well will be a strong track for me. So I really just need to evaluate where I am on the weekends when I get there on a Friday, because it's all new and it's it's a big challenge. So I got no expectations. I just know what I want. I want to win a race, but I got to see where I'm at to begin with, and then I'll make my goals and start ticking at them one thing at a time.
You mentioned his name before.
Yep.
Now he's just won 2 Superbike championships. Is Wayne coming back?
I'm pretty sure he is.
He has to.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good if he did, for full 8 rounds.
Yeah, look, I think maybe that bit of retirement was maybe a little bit of like a rush wording, where it was like, COVID, and I've won the championship. Maybe it's best to just do it now. And look, to be honest, he's won back-to-back, and I think that would have been an amazing way to retire. But if he's not done, he's not done. Sometimes he might, if he's enjoying racing and that's what he enjoys in life, then he should keep doing it. I would do the same thing, but by all means, I don't think the guy's going to win 2 championships and still be training and not ride, And that bike is a very, it's a good package, and there's probably, I believe if someone else was riding it, it would be known by now. So
yeah. Has to.
Yes.
It can't sit in the shed.
No.
You can't keep that thing tied up. And,
no.
He's fit, healthy. Everything's ready to go if it does happen. So
correct. He'll be there.
Yeah, be good to see.
Yeah.
What are you doing for training? Obviously, lots of cycling, hey?
Yeah, I do lots of riding on my pushy. Maybe not as much as, not like as much as some cyclists like Troy. He obviously does a lot. But yeah, I still got to try and juggle up between my work and things like that, and it's difficult, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get in a ride and, try and be back by 7 to get to work. But yeah, most of it at the moment is like cycling, try and do maybe 10 to 15 hours a week on my pushy, and try and do maybe between 8 and 10 hours at the gym to try and keep my upper body strength up and that sort of thing. So Yeah, like my training's pretty full on, a couple times a day, and probably up to 20 hours a week. So that's pretty full on to juggle up with work and that sort of thing. But it's definitely worth it. Like you gotta. That was the hard thing when I was always injured and can't train.
Yep.
And when you can't train, you can't hold strength, and you can't be fit, and it's a massive part of racing. So yeah, I'm glad I'm putting in.
Tell me about your injuries, mate. Like 2017.
Yes,
was the first obviously major one.
Correct.
How did it all happen? What happened?
So basically, it was actually Valentine's Day. So it was February of whichever date is Valentine's Day, January or February?
Feb.
Yes.
You made me think.
So it was Feb 14th.
Yep.
On Valentine's Day. Me and my mum decided to go riding, and she took me. So it was a bit of like Valentine's Day, Yep. So we went riding. It was just me and her. And it was the first time she'd taken me to the track myself. And just after school one day, went for a ride. And I obviously had that crash, which resulted in a lot of injuries. And it was just a practice crash that happened very. It was sort of thrown at me like it was my first lap of the day. I got caught off. That was just by like a tyre that was just sort of sitting on the track a little bit that I obviously didn't see because it was my first lap of the day. And when I hit that tyre, I sort of lost control and ran off the track, and there was a barrier bolted into the ground in the centre of the circuit, and that was what I hit. So I hit that, and it was full of water, so it was like hitting concrete. And I believe I hit it around 120, so coming to a dead stop at that speed was pretty full on. And I don't remember much of it because, to be honest, I lost so much blood I passed out very early. But it was very emotional because my mum ran over to me, so it was just me and my mum, and to begin with. And obviously I was like laying on both my femurs, so they were both like snapped and like pretty much hyperextended because my feet were at my face. I couldn't really feel a thing. Like my body was very on fire because I'd broken my back and my shoulder and a lot of other injuries. And to be honest, I thought I was gone. Because I was passing out very fastly because the bones had popped out of my femurs, so the blood was coming out. It was pretty like emotional. Like my mum was, it's not nice for my mum to be in that position by herself and be calling an ambulance. And look, to be honest, by the time the ambulance got to me, I was like gone. I'm very lucky to even be here, let alone be racing a motorbike and be where I am. So that to be honest was like real difficult. I was 16 and racing in Asia, and I was super fit, and and I was year 12 at school, and just was having a good time in my life. Like it was literally I just have done a few weekends of GP watching, and just everything was really good. And then that ended up in hospital for a few months, and the biggest thing is how fast you fade away. When you're 6 foot tall and you're weighing like 50 kilos in a hospital bed, it's pretty bad. You can't keep food down. You can't stand up and wash yourself. You can't do any of that. So for me, I hadn't broken a bone before that day, and then I got struck with that, and it was so difficult. It was horrible.
So you went through the whole junior dirt track till then without breaking a bone?
Yeah, correct. The worst injury I picked up was probably a knockout. That was it. I went through all of those years with no injuries, and picked that one up. And then I was obviously in an induced coma for a couple of days, and I didn't really when I crashed. I knew my legs were cooked, but I didn't know the extent of what had happened. And to be honest, I thought I was kind of dying. And then when I woke up out of the induced coma, it was like, wow, I woke up and I have these big metal cages on my legs, and I'm sort of strapped to the bed so I can't move, and that sort of thing. And it was pretty traumatic couple of days, and then I got rushed into surgery pretty much the second I was awake, and then even that didn't go too well. I had to have a second emergency surgery because the first one I lost so much blood, and it just wasn't good. I woke up during the first surgery, and because they were still trying to perform on me, and I shouldn't have woke up. That we should have been out of there by then. So that few days was obviously horrible, and I was in the bed for a long time. And it's different when you break one femur. You can try and get up on the other femur or something, but when you got both femurs, back, shoulders, arms, wrists, you're just nothing. It was pretty hard doing that because you just can't do anything. You got to lay there, and like I said, you can't shower yourself, you can't do anything. So, and then even that, finally get out of the hospital and start tracking, and then you got to go back to school in a wheelchair, and you haven't seen your mates in months, and when you saw them, you are who you are, and I was on top of the world, and then I see him and I'm in a wheelchair and I'm covered in braces, and I've got legs on me like noodles, and it was pretty hard. Like I dealt with so much anxiety in the end, and I didn't, the first couple of months I went to school, and then I couldn't really even go back, because I was so I got too emotional at school, you know what I mean? Hated getting, the classrooms were having to move down the stairs for me. My mates were having to take me everywhere, go to the bathroom and all that sort of shit. It was just horrible. So I'm a quite confident person, and usually I don't really care what people think of me, and, I am who I am. But that couple of months really changed me as a person, I struggled a lot mentally, and, I was so sick of life and racing and that sort of thing, and it was difficult. I can definitely assure that.
Man, you're speechless, eh?
Yeah,
it's huge, eh?
Yeah, and that's it. Now I look back at it, and winning the championship was a good point to my story. I believed after that day, I struggled to because I was racing in Asia and I had some rides lined up to take a little bit of journey over there, and that got taken from me. The year that I had my accident, I'd been penciled in to go to Rossi's master camp that year in April, and I actually didn't even know about it before my accident, and so Yamaha had pretty much penciled that in with me to go and do that, and that would have been amazing.
Yep.
What a way to spend a week over there with that camp, and do some things over there. And then I actually found out about that a couple of weeks after I got out of my induced coma, mainly because Yamaha needed to fill the spot if I wasn't ready to go. And I tried so hard to be ready, but geez, I was still laying on my back in April. So, that didn't happen and that sort of thing. But I look back at it now, and regardless of where my racing goes and that sort of thing, obviously everyone wants to race MotoGP, but for me, I'd need to take, if I can, now my dream is to become Australian Superbike Champion.
Yep.
If I become Australian Superbike Champion, I'll make a new one. But for where I am now, it's pretty cool that I've been able to have this story. By all means, if I didn't have to deal with it, I wouldn't. I would completely take that out of my life. But, to get that to where I am and have this story behind myself is quite a cool thing. It's special, and I think it's made me who I am. And, like I said, my dream now to win a Superbike championship is my goal. And if I can do that, then maybe I evaluate and go somewhere else. But at the moment, that's what I want to do.
It's nice and refreshing to say that, because a lot of people do skip it too. A lot of, I just want to do MotoGP,
Yep.
Australian Superbike Champion's a huge thing to have.
Well, you're the best rider in Australia.
Absolutely. It's massive.
Australia's not a small country.
No, and we've got credible races.
Correct.
It's a huge thing for anyone to achieve.
Yep.
I think the goal of being overseas is a little bit different these days too.
100% it is. And it's so hard because sometimes you can hear other people and you don't want to be that burst to their bubble. But it is. It's not what it's. It's not as easy as it seems. You can't just win races and go. You don't. Even people say to me, that I in my work, you're Australian Supersport Champion. What the heck are you doing working? Man, I gotta work.
Yeah.
And I'm probably gonna have to keep working.
Yep.
And even if I'm Australian Superbike Champion, I'll probably keep working.
Yep.
And that's just the way it goes. And by all means, when I was younger, I thought, awesome, I want to race MotoGP. But right now, I don't even think about that. I don't even know not that I don't think it's achievable. Obviously you never want to crush that out. But to me, like you said, for me to win Australian Superbike Championship, that would be a massive thing alone. And it's kind of hard to put it out there, but I think more people need to look at it like that. We're still racing in Australia, and to become that is still something special. And unless things change with motorsport and the routes to get overseas, which I'm not sure if it will, hopefully more people start to look at it like that, because it's very hard being a young kid thinking it's all so easy, and then you can get led down this path where it's not. It's pretty full on, and you need, like we've said about earlier, you need to have contacts and you need to know people, and and that sort of thing. But like I'm very like this year to be racing for the team that I am, and with the guys I have around me, I'm very appreciative of that. And I'm very excited of where my future is at the moment.
It's and to add to that, like at riding, junior dirt track championship, junior dirt track, and getting championships and that. Like next year, like you're riding R1M.
Yes.
You're riding one of the best bikes in Australia. The machinery we've got here ain't half bad.
No.
It's not like we're riding completely inferior products or anything.
Correct.
For myself, I'd dream of riding something that had Öhlins set up on it and this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it's
100%.
It's a huge bit. Like to have that perspective of like, wow, I'd love to ride your factory semi-factory bike. Like it'd be pretty unreal to have. And I think somewhere along the way that gets crossed off and missed.
It does, and that's when people like miss that, and then start to look into overseas and that sort of thing. But like I said earlier, I'm very very fortunate to be racing for the team I am this year. I'm super excited. My dream is obviously still to race in Europe, and whether that's even just some international championship like Spain or BSB one day or something else, like even that would be cool. You have to be able to look at these things. There's steps to all of that. But like if you can't become Australian Superbike champion, it's going to be very difficult for overseas. So unless I can win an Australian Superbike championship, like there's no reason for me to venture off into that path yet. I need to sort of keep my track on where I am, and I'm obviously still young. I'm 21, but nowadays, like, it's like soccer, they're like getting scouted at these 14, 15-year-old. You get, obviously Pedro Acosta this year when he won the championship in Moto3, like, what's he, 16, 17 years old or something like that? And now he's going to be riding a Moto2 bike for, Red Bull KTM. And unless you're sort of at that age and carrying down that path, it's so difficult to get in, like 21's not old, but in that world, like I think, how old's Fabio Quartararo? He's probably around that age. 21, 22. And he's won the world championship, So yeah, it's a difficult one. And I believe if you want to actually be able to make it the best chance you have by the age of 12, 13, I believe you have to be in Europe. And there's no other way around it. You need to be at that age, racing those bikes on those tracks and have those people around you. And that's probably the 95% chance of like making to GP or Europe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's your best outcome.
100%.
There's other outcomes, but that's your best possible route.
Yeah,
to take
for sure it is, because I raced 1 year here in Superbikes. I'm 22. Yep. Even if I win this year's championship, which far out, I don't have that expectations. But anyways, even if that aligned, go race an international champion for a couple of years, all of a sudden I'm 24. 24, and that's if I've had like the perfect sort of, plan. So even at that age, you're still considered on the outskirts. So, that's why, like, I really think if I can, focus on what I'm doing here, and even if I stay here, and keep racing and that sort of thing, and can make a little bit of a journey out of my racing here, like, I'll go where that goes.
Yep. I totally understand it. And, and you're not, and you and I both aren't saying like Ollie hasn't won an Australian Superbike championship either.
No.
But his journey of what he's undertaken, the way he's doing it, I actually quite appreciate that way too, because he's got the speed now to win an Australian Superbike championship.
Yeah,
he definitely does.
Yep.
He's put in the work and the effort here.
Yep.
And at some time, like at his age where he's at now, he's going over still young enough to be able to get in that, and to get into where this championship is for Supersport going over there. It's actually a really refreshing time to get into that too.
Yeah, well, he's at the right age for that championship.
100%.
Like for World Supersport 600, he's the perfect age.
You should be going to do that.
Yes, correct. And even for me, like this year, like I believe the way I rode my R6, I believe I could have, I could even do quite well in Europe on an R6. And originally, like I would have loved to go and race a World Supersport 600 Championship myself. But I couldn't make that happen, and I just didn't really have the contacts and that sort of thing, and then the budget just didn't really work within. And that's where I then sort of at the beginning of the year I ruled that out and said, okay, I need to make a plan, because without plan you're not going to get it working. Yep. So that's when I sort of, tried to take that route, and couldn't make it happen. So then I sort of turned my attention to the Superbikes, and that's why in the middle of the year I wanted to get on a Superbike, and I knew that was going to be my direction. And I'm pretty close with Paul Free, and he was working for Honda at the time. And I said to him, can I try and get on this bike, of Troy's, and have a ride, and I'll cover the costs of whatever it takes for me to take that bike out and go riding. And I'm not asking for a free clean clean slate to just go and ride a bike. I don't expect that. So, I put in a bit of work to get that happening, and rode that bike a couple of times and enjoyed it, and then managed to get on the R1 with a little bit of a better deal and relationship starting to form, and that's how I am now. That's where I've landed, and I did the best thing I could at that point to decide to take that path, because that's given me a ride this year. If I didn't do that and I kept daydreaming and trying to get to Europe and it was never going to happen, I wouldn't have a ride this year. So, I'm glad I just made a plan and said, this is what I'm going to do. And then here I am with a ride. So it's good.
And a lot of people probably forecasted this for you. You've made your plan as well. But, I've spoken about it for people. It'd be great to see Broc come on. What are you, 6'3"?
Yeah. Probably 6'2", 6'3", somewhere around that.
It'd be great to see you get to the time where you've fulfilled your opportunity. You've completed your opportunity in Supersport.
Yep.
This is the time where it does forecasted come through, and you're the new blood, Max, yourself, and a couple of others coming in. The new blood coming into the championship that we sort of do need too. So it's the timing. Yeah,
well, that's what I think. Even Ollie this year probably done the best thing that could have happened for us younger guys, because Australian follows this tradition where not old guys, but older guys are on the factory teams. And it makes it very hard for young guys coming through that don't have ridiculous amounts of money behind them and knowledge. Because without money and knowledge, it's very difficult to build a competitive package on a Superbike. And so, while it's difficult for young guys to get that, to get the trust to have a good bike and to get given the opportunity, it makes it hard. So by Ollie going out, winning a race this year at Darwin, it made it realise, he didn't dominate on a 600 and go to a Superbike and was ready to go. He jumped on a Superbike and learnt and did what all of us probably have to do. But he proved that, you can win a race at that age. And I believe that was the best thing that could have happened, because even coming from that event, it was quite a big media thing for a young guy to, win a Superbike race. And I think it brought a lot of energy, and it brought a lot of people sort of spiked up to it. A lot of people love. Obviously, Ollie has a big fan base himself, you know what I mean? He comes with a lot of support, but I believe that also, just come the fact that obviously Ollie is Ollie Bayliss, but I believe the fact that he is young and he's hungry is what people loved about that. You know what I mean? It doesn't come back to, and I say this all the time, and Ollie's obviously my mate and that, but at the end of the day, no matter what package you get given or anything like that on a Superbike, you don't just win a race and the bike rides itself. No. That's takes a lot, and for him to do that at his age and be able to pull himself from 5th, 6th place guy to win a race, that's what people like to see, and that's what our sport needs
for sure.
And we need young guys to be engaging with battle with guys that have been in the class, the veterans that have the knowledge, because that brings excitement. So imagine if we could have 3 or 4 guys doing what Ollie did every year. It would bring a lot to the championship. So I hope this year, I think there's a couple of us, maybe me and Max, and I hope that even him can bring it to the front, because it'll be good for us, and hopefully it then generates the opportunities for other young guys to come in, because I believe that's what the class needs. Not ruling out that those other guys can't be in there. I believe it needs to be a mix of everything, you know what I mean, to bring that excitement, because those guys that have been in the class for a few years, they're not going to let us win. They're not going to, just let us come along. It's obviously going to create a great form of racing, and I believe for spectating views and even media and marketing sort of thing, that's what the championship needs.
Walking away from Hidden Valley, the news that of Ollie's win, everything around it was huge. That was probably one of the most clicked ASBK items. If I was to measure it, I reckon it would be
100%.
And it's not because it's Ollie Bayliss, but partially, but there's a lot of it that is because, something new, exciting. It's sort of like a changing of the guard, I've said it to Troy, and I've said to Ollie as well, the desire that Ollie's got of it, and it's exactly what you said, but he's not just jumping on a bike and winning.
No.
Mate, the guy is working his absolute arse off to do this. Yeah. He's committed.
Yeah, and the thing with I actually like I said to Ben Henry before they went to Darwin, I was down there at a workshop, at his workshop, and I take my bikes there sometimes to get some work done and that, and he hates it because he's obviously tries his best to look after me and not charge me and that, but he's trying to get his own work done, so I rock up with my bike and he's like, oh, bloody Pearson, what now? And anyway, so I was having a joke around with him before they head off to Darwin. I said, oh, don't worry about it, you'll be on a win for this weekend, and you'll have a good weekend. So, and he goes, oh yeah, you reckon we're on here, do you? And I said, well, I reckon Ollie's on, and not putting anything on Jonesy, but I see a path with Ollie when he's got this like certain mentality, like when he's on. And I said to Benny, like, Ollie's going to win this weekend. And he was like to me, mate, like, he was, and obviously the first couple of rounds before, I think it was like third and fourth place guy. And Benny's like, man, it's a big jump to get from that third and fourth place guy to the win. And I said, not when your mentality clicks. Like, I said, those guys aren't superheroes. They're just the best riders in the country. And there's no reason why he's not one of them. And because I notice a certain path with when we race and that, like if I turn up to a weekend and I can see Ollie's mentality is like quite high, I go, shit, we're on for a weekend here. And he always does well when he is in that mode. He obviously went on to win that weekend in Darwin. And I sort of saw that coming. And it's just interesting. Like he's got this mentality where not a lot of riders have it, but when they know they're on, they will like literally do anything to win that weekend. But then when they're down, sometimes they get a little bit caught up in the storm and then they struggle. And Ollie does do that as well. Like when we raced at Wakefield that year where he struggled and championship went to Paris. Yep. Yeah, he got caught up in that and like just struggled, and I said to him on the weekend, like, mate, and I wanted to win, but I wanted to also see him win the championship that year. And, I just tried to ravel his head and, mate, get out of it, and he got caught up in it. And that's that's their downside. But when they're on their upside, it's very hard to beat them, and that weekend, Ollie was not going back from Darwin without a win. And even since that round, he hasn't won a race. He still has that same mentality. And I believe if he takes that to Europe, and even if he has a bit of a slow start or whatnot, if he has that mentality in Europe, I believe he has every opportunity to do very well in that class, for sure.
For sure. Incredible talent.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. He does have something in him that knows how to ride a motorbike. Yes.
For sure. And he's got that, you call it mentality. I call it, he's got mongrel.
It's mongrel.
It's true. Just, he's a gritty character.
He is.
And which is cool. Cool to see. And you need it. You need desire.
Yeah. And it's like that, and it's very good that I've been able to create like a bit of a friendship with Ollie that we had on track that hasn't had any effect, because like we're obviously good mates, but like I hate losing to him, he hates losing to me, and we're always putting each other down on things that we think we're better at.
Yep.
But in a way, it's look, I don't want to say that I helped him, but I believe our riding that we've done has helped both of us. And I think, like doing our riding and our bit of training on 400s together, and even having that that bit of competitiveness even when we're riding on the 400s and that sort of thing, it's pretty important. Like it brings us both up, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes this year. I think he'll do well, but it'll be a bit of a struggle in the pit without him, because that team with those boys, Troy and Ollie, bring a lot of energy, and I enjoy being in around them. And I was hoping this year I could jump on a Superbike and take it to Ollie and be able to do that before he gets over there. But yeah, he's getting over there early, and good on him. And maybe in a couple of years I meet back on him on a path over there. I don't know.
Who's faster on a 400?
He is.
He is?
Yeah, 100%. Yep, he is. Yeah.
So this out at the mini moto?
Yeah. Yep. So we've had a night out there. Like we've been out there maybe like 7 or 8 times, and he's not much faster than me. Like I've been out there a couple of nights where I'm faster, where I've had a good day, but usually he's generally a bit faster. He's a little bit littler than me and gets over that 400 pretty well, where sometimes I'm a little bit not as fast with him on change directions, things like that.
Yep.
But yeah, in relation to the 400, yeah, he's pretty fast.
Good training for you?
Yeah, 100%. It is good. Like, it's good. The main thing is it's nice to get on a bike and enjoy it. Be able to ride, not have pressure of times. And well, in saying that, Troy always pulls out the stopwatch. So, maybe not from that side, but like, we get to ride, not mattering if we come into the pits with something not working on the bike, or, half the time our dash has fallen off or something because some zip ties snap, like it's we're there for a ride, and it's good to be able to do that instead of turning up to the track, because like when you're away racing, obviously we enjoy racing motorbikes, but when we go to ASPK, it's like time to do our job. Like you don't really there to enjoy it. You enjoy the winning, but like you're there to do your job. Yep. So it's nice to be able to go and do things outside of racing that you can just simply enjoy. And going to the kart track with those boys for me is my way out for sure.
Mate, you're 21 years old. You're very level-headed. Were you always like that, or did the injuries change that?
Nah, to be honest, I was always pretty level-headed, but maybe my injuries succumbed to like bring me back to realizing where I'm at. The sky's obviously the limit for a lot of things, but I believe it made me realize where I'm at is a very important thing. You're not getting carried away. My dad is been a major impact of how I am, and obviously I won a lot of dirt track racing, and it's like, when I was racing against the likes of Tom Edwards and even Max Whale and all those boys, and I won a lot, in that time, and my dad was always very like good to keep me down to where I was, we're here to race, you're here to win, we go home, and he made me sort of carry the energy I do now. So probably because of his help, it definitely brought me level-headed, but my injuries pretty much just brought me back to where I was, to like make me realize and appreciate what I have, because half the time there's a lot of riders out there that don't realize like how nice it is to be able to have this, this adventure, to be able to race your motorbike and enjoy that part of your life and be successful with, because it's very rewarding, like that's the main thing about racing. And if you don't realize how rewarding it is, it's pretty bad, because like when I had my injuries and ended up in hospital, like I felt like nothing, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because without racing, that's kind of, as much as, not saying I don't have anything else to go for me, that's what our lives are about. Yeah. So like that gets taken away from you for even a period of time. It's very difficult. Like I remember even when I was in the hospital for a few months, I remember when I first went outside, about 5 minutes into going outside, I passed out from the sunlight. It just made me go. But anyways,
wow.
When I went out, just like the feeling of the sense of the trees and the air,
yep.
It was like gold. And it was so weird because you walk out the front door every day.
Yep.
You don't think about the wind and you don't go, oh, this is beautiful. You just walk out and get to do what you want to do. But like I remember that day so strongly. It just felt like, I felt even though I was broken I felt $1 million when I felt that wind,
Yeah.
And it was like I said, 5 minutes later I passed out and I was back up to the hospital. But it just sort of made me realise things. You just have to be able to appreciate what we have and that sort of thing. And I've been very fortunate to have parents so supportive to get me to here, and now it's they're able to step back and be able to enjoy it from a point of view where they can watch and put that in the perspective of a team getting to now take the reins and try and help me to maybe the next part of my future. Yeah.
Mum was with you that day.
Yes.
How does she go?
Yeah, well, to be honest, she struggled the first few months, but like they were always really good with it in terms of like it was always up to me. Like it was that simple. And yeah, like there was a couple points in my recovery where I sort of thought like, fuck, I can't do this much longer because I was struggling. And They were very supportive. If you don't want to do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
And but they never said to me, yeah, good, we don't want you to do it. You know what I mean? And I believe my dad, as much as he was, obviously very taken back by my accident and it hurt him a lot as well to see me go through it, he was very supportive in the way that like he believes that I have a lot of talent, and he was there for me pretty much every step to make sure I get back, because he didn't want it to let me also, not saying that he wasn't supportive if I wanted to give it away, but it was more the fact that he wanted me to know, like, I can get through this and I will get back there. And I'm very lucky to have that support. And like Mum struggles to watch, I think, a lot of it, but like she's a hard chick. Like she's not a softie. And so, yeah, she's okay. Like, when we put in a lot as a family to go away racing, even if I have a bit of a downer weekend or I struggle, like on a Monday, like my mum's kicking me out of bed, like, lift your game, So it's really good. We have a good support system, and obviously the second time I broke my back was probably the hardest because I was stuck in Adelaide and I was down there by myself, and my mum had to fly there to be with me and just to help me. And that probably was one of the most difficult ones, because I was like, shit, I'm back in this bed again, and mum's back by my side in a hospital. And that accident, even though it didn't hurt me the most, mentally it was like just stuffed me.
So what was that one? That was on the 600 as well?
Yeah, so like it had only been maybe 11 months since my main accident, and I jumped up onto a 600 the following year, and like I was going okay, a couple third places I think at the first opening rounds, and like I was happy with that, like Actually, my first race at Phillip Island, it was wet and I put it on pole, but then it dried up and I didn't have the pace. But anyways, so then we went to the Bend as the third round, and I did a wild card in that Asian Championship when they come here, and I just got taken out by another rider. But yeah, like I remember laying there in the gravel trap, and I went so far, but then I knew instantly that I broke my back. It was the exact same pain, you know what I mean? Yep. And they'd had like 2 or 3 crashes in that race, and it was like 5:30 at night. Like they were losing daytime, and the marshal come over to me, and he said, "Mate, like, can you get up? Like, we've been told we don't want to cancel this race, because if we cancel this race one more time, that's it. The race is done for the day." And the guy said to me, "Can you get up?" I said, "Mate, I can't get up." And he said, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "I've broken my back." Yeah. And he goes, "Mate, you don't know that. Have you tried to get up?" I said, "Mate, I've broken my back." Yeah. And then the bikes were still coming around, so I'm sort of laying, not facing the track, and the bikes, I could hear them coming, and I was like, "Are they still going?" And he's like, "Mate, they're still going." And he sort of took a couple of steps back because we were so close to the track. And they sort of went around, and thankfully no one come down, because if they did, I was laying there, you know. And yeah, I said to the guy, "Mate, I promise, I've broke my back and I need to get on a stretcher and get out of here because I'm in the gravel." And anyways, they cancelled that race, and fortunately, and that did then stop the day. But yeah, I got carried out on that stretcher and then taken to the Adelaide, and yeah, broke my back. And yeah, so I was lucky that you know, I had that awareness and be able to, because there was no way I was getting up. And yeah, that then just left me off my feet again for like another 3 months, you know. So like I did 12 months to get back to somewhat form, and then lost it all. So that was the most. But ever since then, that was about 18 months ago now. So thank God I'm sort of past that. I'm at a bit of a peak, I believe. Like I believe I'm back to racing where I am, you know, because the injuries itself made it difficult for me to lay things on the line. Like the most important thing when you race is you need to be able to lay things on the line. You know, you need to be able to be open to landing on your head, you know, because if you don't race with that mentality, you're racing at the highest level in Australia. If you've got any doubt while you ride, it's never going to happen. Yep. And yeah, this year I've finally been able to turn that around and be able to, you know, ride and be able to attack. And I believe even that championship race, you know, really showed that I've finally got that back, you know, like I'm willing to lay everything on the line again for my racing. And mentally that's been a big factor that I believe I'll be able to carry into this year and help.
Did you know how you were saying you were in like a mental slump the first time? How long did it take to clear that?
Oh, a long time.
Do you ever clear that?
No, like I still get anxiety all the time. And I never believed anxiety was a big thing. And it's funny, it's like just another thing that made me like realize a few things. Like, you know, when someone says to you that like they have a heart attack or something, like a heart attack, sorry, obviously that's bad. Anxiety attack. You think like, what's an anxiety attack? You know, you don't really look into it. You just go, oh, yeah, whatever. But like I didn't know what anxiety was, and I had an anxiety attack, and it was one of my first few days at home, and I just wasn't really enjoying how things were going. Like I was, you know, I can't get in the shower, so I'm getting hosed outside in a wheelchair, and then I'm laying in the sun to dry because I can't dry myself properly, and I'm just laying outside. Like it's just crap. Yep. And anyways, I had an anxiety attack and like a panic attack, and I thought I was having a heart attack. Yep. And it was so bad. And I called the ambulance myself. It was just me and my mum, and she was cooking. And I said to her, and I feel like such a clown, but I said to the guy, "I'm having a heart attack." And he said, "Mate, you're not having a heart attack. You're having an anxiety attack. If you're having a heart attack, you wouldn't be able to speak. So it's all right. Just try and, you know, bring your breath in. We're on our way." And my mum come in, and she's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I'm having a heart attack." Yeah. You know. And anyways, they turned up, and I was still pretty stressed out of my mind. And they gave me the green whistle. And it helped like relieve that stress. Yeah. And yeah, I was having an anxiety attack. And then after that day, I was like, that's an anxiety attack? Like, holy crap. You know,
take over your body.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. And some people deal with that every day that's uncontrollable, and like makes you realize like how crazy that sort of thing is. You know, even when people think of like headaches versus a migraine, if someone's never had a migraine, they think, oh, just a bad headache. Yeah. Like, nah, like if you're having migraines, I think that's...
It's taken over.
It's taken over your body. Yep. So, yeah, I still deal with anxiety now and a few things like that. When I get stressed, my body still naturally comes into like this stress mode.
Yep.
But like it's different now. I know it's anxiety, and I saw a psychologist, and I'm really open to it. Like when I was struggling, I saw a psychologist for like 12, 15 months and that sort of thing. Because sometimes you can't talk to your girlfriend, or you can't talk to your parents or something about some things. You really just you can't. You know, when you're like 16, 17 years of age and you can't really do much, you don't really feel open like that. So like I sought help and did all that, and his name was Marcel, and he helped me massively to, you know, bring back my mentality and that sort of things. And made me realize my anxiety and things like that I try and nurse now. And like I still sometimes at, you know, dinner a night before a race or something, I start to get anxiety and things like that. But, you know, I just go outside, catch a breath and, you know, take a bit of a moment to realize what's going on and focus on my breathing. Then I'm back in, you know what I mean? And there's probably something I'll deal with my life from these accidents. Like I don't believe you can have such a trauma like that and come out like gold. You know, you're going to have some sort of repercussions, and that might be slightly mine, but it's, you know, I've found a way to deal with them, and that's the best thing I can do, get on top of them and just keep getting on with it.
Now I'm going to stuff the first word up, but it's did they do like some CBT, some behavioural therapies?
Yeah, like
congress.
Yeah, like even when I had my accident, like I remember the lady coming into me and obviously I was in an induced coma, and I actually didn't hit my head in the accident, which was the weird thing. But obviously I passed out from like my blood loss and that. And
shock.
Even then, like it was so weird. She came in this one day, one of the nurses, and she said to me, "We've got to run through some, you know, some general math, you know, counting sixes and things like that." And I was like, "Why?" And, you know, I'm fine. Didn't hit my head. And you know, she said, "Okay, well, off you go." You know, I was 6, and then I was like, and I knew, like I know, and I'm good at math.
Yeah.
But I couldn't process the next number. And that for me was like, oh crap, you know? And the lady sort of said, "That's all right, we'll leave it till tomorrow and we'll come back to it." And simple things like that, my head was like stuffed. I couldn't think about things. I couldn't really, you know, I couldn't understand what was going on, or just my brain wouldn't really work for a few things. So that was interesting, because I had to have a few weeks of that sort of stuff and, you know, be able to retrain my brain. And even the first day I got up, my brain couldn't even tell my foot to like take a step forward. You know, like I was sort of standing there thinking, I can't move. Like it took me like a month really when I started getting up to actually start moving my feet, you know, because my brain couldn't, and it hadn't even hit my head.
Yeah.
So it was a strange thing, like even just going through that, like I didn't completely understand why that happened. I still don't really understand it. I believe it's just maybe something to do with the trauma, but like I had to go through a lot of help even with that, just to retreat my brain, how to start operating as normal, which was interesting. Yeah.
So you had to learn to walk again and everything.
Yeah, 100%. Like first month I got up, I couldn't take steps, and because I was so weak, like I didn't have strength to even hold myself up. So, I remember like I said, the first day I got on crutches, I got off I had a walker, like a granny walker, and went to the hospital, and she said to me, you know, "All right, we'll put you on crutches," and I thought I was just going to walk out of there on crutches, and I was excited. I was like, great. But like the second I got on crutches, I couldn't even move a foot to like take a step forward. And like even that day took me back so far. I was like, oh, far out. Yep. You know, like couldn't even get out of the hospital. So straight back into my wheelchair to get back out, you know. So it was interesting how long those small things took. But like, you know, it like was nursed and it was done what I could, you know. Like I was able to get my cycle bike inside my room and do some light things. And it's pretty strange, you know, you go from riding 150k on your push bike and then your exercise is standing up 10 times. You know, you just don't realise how things can take you back so far. But yeah, like for where I am now, like I'm really fit. I believe I'm probably fitter than what I was. So yeah, it's definitely made me understand and even give a bit of respect for other riders that go through these injuries and, you know, just everyday life for people that go through injuries. Like it's a big thing.
Yeah, it's a huge part for everyone. Like, you know, take away the motorcycle part, a lot of people go through, you know, chronic pain, chronic illness from injuries forever, you know.
Correct.
This year,
yep.
Tell me about your team. What do you got on? What's the actual package you got?
Yeah, so obviously we've sort of set up this team that Travis has had along with Jed. They've sort of had their own little bubble going on that they've been able to create with each other, and this year they've rebranded it to have the team name to 727 Motorsports.
Mm-hmm.
Travis has got a bit of a new business coming up with opportunity that he wants to link back to the team, and which is going to be a cool way to promote his business when it launches. And yeah, like Travis has done a really good good job of pulling in the right guys for the team. Obviously, he's pulled in Paul Free and Brent Stevens, and he's got his own guys that are spinning spanners and things like that. But look, I think we're pretty realistic about that. Obviously, it's a new team, and from the turnaround from last December, like when we race, it's not long. Like it's a month, to be setting up a team from scratch.
Yep.
It's not a lot of time. So, the first round or something, even ordering parts at the moment, like it's like impossible. It's like going down and getting food from the shops at the moment. You just can't.
That's right.
So it's difficult to get our hands on parts and that sort of thing. So like it could be a bit of a slow start for the first couple of months with even just some things we're trying to get our hands on.
Yep.
But by all means, like, that one thing in the Superbikes, like I mentioned, you need the right guys around you. And Travis has done a good job to get the good guys around him. And, like obviously Jed's going to be my teammate this year. I don't know Jed that well. Like I mentioned before, I sort of kind of stick to myself at the track and say hello to everyone. But Jed's a really nice guy, and I've had a couple of conversations with him. And yeah, we're really excited to kick off the year. And I'm very appreciative that this team has given me this opportunity. And I just hope at some point this year I can sort of be able to give that back with my results. That's sort of where I am. Yeah,
for sure. And obviously on, a competitive bike, Yamaha's going to be good. Do you want Pirellis?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got a competitive bike as well this year, and that's a great thing to go into the year knowing the bike's ready. And if your results aren't there, then you know that it's to come from you, and you can start to tick away, because it's one thing is very difficult to be able to accept that you're doing as good as your package can do.
Yep.
And I believe that a lot of guys have been like that the last couple of years, and I believe that that would be very hard, like turning up and knowing that your bike's a 5th place bike, but you're putting in 20 hours a week training, So this year I'm really lucky that I don't have that standing there. I'll put in my training, I go to the track, and if I don't win races, that's because of me. So that's a great thing to have, I believe. And yeah, at some point this year, like I mentioned, I would like to be definitely on the podiums. But I relate my things back to even the way that Ollie went with his Superbike race. He's won a race halfway through the season. I believe there's no reason why I can't do what he's done, and whether it takes me a different path to begin with or whatnot, like I still hope I can be there at some point. That's a goal.
Awesome. With the package that you've got, like we're talking about 8 rounds plus there's some test days and practice days in the middle. It's a pretty hectic year, really.
Yep.
Will you be able to do any club stuff like you've done in the past?
I don't know. I really don't.
Very hard to fit that in.
It is actually very hard. And like I said, the last 2 years we've raced 4 rounds. Yep. So you can juggle in these extra days. But sometimes riding the bike all the time isn't always the best option, because sometimes riding these bikes that require such fine tuning, it's easy to get caught up in trying to change things and so if you're rolling out too much, trying to look into things, it makes it quite difficult. And that's why it's good to ride our 400s and things like that, where you don't have to think about that. So look, I think with the 8 rounds and the testings at the track is going to be more than enough riding. And whether we have some outings at some club levels, if we need to maybe test some things or something like that, then yeah, we might. But like, I've got to just juggle up these rounds with my work and this sort of thing. And going back to club level stuff, I just don't know. I don't see it being really easy to be able to make them and do everything else. Like I believe it's going to be a very full on year as it is. Yep,
for sure. And that's what I thought too. By the time, like when you look at the calendar, I'm like, man, that's a pretty hectic schedule.
It's full on,
especially coming off having 2 rounds per year.
Yeah,
so everyone rolling that back up is a big thing. So, mate, I appreciate everything you do. You're absolutely nailing it. It's been a cool journey to sort of sit back and see where you've come from and see you come through the ranks.
Yep.
And to win the championships, reward from being a kid to now. So well done on that.
Yeah. The hardest thing with that is sort of when you come through is like doubting yourself. Like that was the main thing. I was so fortunate to be able to pull this off, because even the first couple of years, obviously I was very fast when I was young, and I believe I was the fastest in Australia for a couple of years, and I don't think that's just my opinion. I believe that's true.
Yep.
Like I did 3 rounds here while I was racing in Asia, and I think I won like 11 out of the 12 races. Like I won a lot, and I think the hardest thing was like even coming back was like, geez, am I actually going to get back to where I was? Because the injuries can take that away from you.
For sure.
And there are some people that don't get back to where they were. And even, try and tell sponsors, market, like, I'll get there, just give me some time. Not everyone has time on their side. So, this year I'm really glad to, show that like me as a rider, like Broc Pearson of where I was, I'm very excited and glad that I can show that, I'm here again. So that's been that this year has been special for me to to be able to, you know, bring that back and not have my doubts. So this year I don't have any doubts at all. I know where I'm at. I know I'm new, and I know I have a lot to learn, but that's why I sort of have a bit of a realistic idea of, you know, being able to win races this year at some point. So
takes pressure off a bit too.
It does.
You know, realistically, like you can come in you're like a learner. You know, you can come in and you're a competitive person.
Yes.
But the pressure's not on you as much to go and win the Australian Superbike Champion. Be
No.
awesome, don't get me wrong. But the pressure's off a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, I got no pressure at all from that sort of thing. You know, like I said, my goal this year, even if I was, you know, all over the place with my results or struggled at one track or another, whatever it is, you know, if I do my best and if I can win a race anywhere at some point this year, that's job done.
It's going to be different having Dad away. You know, like not being, obviously, you've got a team now around. So it'd be different for him, I reckon, yeah?
Oh, 100%. And I believe he'll probably struggle a little bit to stand back. And I think even just because of our injury, like my injuries that I picked up, he became very, I don't know the word for it, but he became very attached to making sure everything was right for me so that it was up to me on the track. And you know, I believe, you know, even just making sure that everything's right on the bike for me to roll out, because he's also has a little bit of mental trauma from my accidents and that sort of thing. And, you know, like while I was recovering, and even when I was out of the school with my injuries, I couldn't work, you know, and, you know, you can't do much with a couple broken backs. You have to have a very specific job to handle the load. And when I left school, like I was working with Dad because that was just what worked. I couldn't work every day. So we had like a very like full on bond, you know what I mean? Like every day at work and every day like night in sheds and away riding and that sort of thing. And, you know, this has been like 15 years of this journey that he's drove me everywhere. So it'll be interesting, but like I'm really like glad about that, you know, like that's for them is their way to be able to look back at it and at least know that they've done what they can. And like it's up to me now, and it's up to other people around me to take me further. And you know, like my dad's done amazing to prepare these motorbikes and you know, give me like he's a locksmith, you know, like he's not a bike mechanic. He's doesn't own a dyno or operate these stores and stuff like that. You know, he's a locksmith, and to prepare the bikes that he has and bring them out every year in the condition they are and have such fast bikes, he's done awesome. So yeah, this year is going to be, I hope it's nice for him to be able to relieve that stress, knowing that he doesn't have to put in so much and can be able to watch with my mum and maybe just be able to enjoy watching it rather than stressing if, you know, he'd done that wheel up tight, because he just double thinks everything, you know what I mean?
Oh, and rightly so. Like it's a big part of, mate, it's the biggest part. You're the rider, but it's the other biggest part to it, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
It's still a team sport.
It's very important. Yeah, 100%. And I've just been very lucky that I've had a good bunch of guys around me that I've been able to have full trust in. And that's why even moving into this year, like with Freebie and Brent and the guys over around me, like I have full confidence in these guys. You know, like we've mentioned with Brent and Freebie, they're obviously very knowledgeable guys. Brent and Freebie are, you know, very nice people. And working with people that you have trust in is a big thing for racing. So I'm glad they're in my corner.
Very calming too. You've got two guys that are very, you know, very calming people to have around the pit. Very knowledgeable, but the same deal, very calming, which is a nice thing to have. Yeah,
and I believe that's what you need. Like in your team, like you need to have like cool and collective guys working with you. And like I even picked like, you know, like Bayless Troy done that really well with Ollie by working with obviously Ben overlooks the team and runs the show, but like, you know, Troy had Brian and Brian and Byron. And both of those guys, Brian was spinning spanners. Byron was sort of a little bit of a crew chief for Ollie, I think, in a way with the suspension and just being there as, you know, someone to talk to. And both those guys are so level-headed, you know what I mean? And when I looked at that from the outside, that was what I believe was a big thing for Ollie, even jumping on the bike and going fast, because, you know, they had this, you know, cool and collective manner that, you know, when he got on the bike, it was up to him, and that's what's important. And this year we've been able to have something, you know, that works in like that. So I believe that's super important, because if you're a bit radical or, you know, guys are a little bit, you know, unsure, and then they make the rider unsure, it's an easy thing to get caught up in, and you can't, because when you jump on that bike, you can't really worry about anything except for riding.
That's right. You lose your head. Like if you get people just erratic around you, just doesn't, it never works. And you see the ones that have it, you're like, oh really? Like, yeah, just bring it back a step. And
you need to, because if you even have that, then you lose the enjoyment of the racing, and you just, it's one thing. And that's like what I said when I come back from my accidents. I thought too much into things, you know, just and that just happens with injuries and things. But when I was in that mode, well, it wasn't a good mode, you know, like I struggled to, you know, like I did come runner up in that championship that year, but that was just because I was consistently there. You know, I was never there. Like I was just there or thereabouts, and managed to make a good year. But, you know, I never picked up a race win that year and never really got that close. And it was just because of that same situation, you know, thought into too many things and got caught up in it instead of just focusing on riding. So, yeah, it's an important thing to be able to make sure that you realise it's sometimes you just got to ride the bike, enjoy it, and then you get your bit of kick out of it when you do well.
Because there's two things, isn't there? There's a fast rider, and then there's blistering pace. At that time, you're a fast rider.
Exactly.
But now, like you look at that last round we did at Morgan Park on when you were on the 600 the last time we were out there. That's blistering pace.
Yeah, correct.
You know, you've got everything back.
Yes.
That's a different thing to being fast, isn't it?
Exactly, and that's why I said I was never there, but I was there or thereabouts.
Yes.
You know, and this year I was there. You know, it was good, you know, like I was always turning up to the track there or thereabouts and looking at who was fastest and how far I was off.
Yep.
This year, I never looked at the times. Like I was that guy that was turning up and being fastest, and that's a really important thing to even be able to have mentally. Because like if you really have that, then if you know you're like the threat for everyone else, brings you right up as well as a rider. You know what I mean? You sort of have that confidence, and you sort of have that bit of like you say, mongrel in you. And if you have that in you, you're on for a win.
That's what Taparis had.
Yeah,
it had a bit of fear for others because he came out with it was fast everywhere. You know, is he riding this year?
Don't know. I don't know. I believe he will be, but I don't know what he's doing.
No.
So yeah, I'm not sure, but I would say he would probably be either riding in Europe on a 600 or here on a Superbike. So I'm not sure, but I guess time will tell with that too.
Yeah, for sure. We got an exciting few months coming up. So, mate, I won't keep you much more for today.
Yeah.
That's been awesome. Sitting down with you, I'd like to talk about obviously the journey to here, and what a ride it's been, eh?
Yeah, it's been awesome, and I hope maybe in a few months I can sit back down here and explain a race win or something like that. That'll be cool.
I'd love that, mate. And shout out to some of the people that have been behind you too, because to get to this point, you don't do it yourself. Who's been with you? Yeah,
to be honest, like it's difficult to pencil in an actual supporter, because that once you sort of get to like my level and you're sort of chasing support, you, like I said, you start to build a lot of friendship with everyone that starts to help. And obviously my main people have been my parents, and financially they have done the most and sacrificed the most to be where I am.
Yep.
But yeah, like I've had people on board in terms of sponsors. I got a friend, Josh Oliver, from a finance company up in Cairns. He's a broker, and like even a few others. I got Mike from World Gym, and a cafe here on the Gold Coast, and actually one of my mechanics' bosses, he owns an engineering company, Emery Engineering. But all these sort of people that have helped, like they're all my friends, you know what I mean? And I think it's very special to be able to have that, you know, be able to call them and discuss the weekends and that sort of thing. But in terms of, you know, penciling one person or something like that, obviously there's my parents, and then there's everyone else that has helped make it somewhat achievable. So look, I'm always trying to get support, and like this year I was obviously able to get Fireball on board, and that was a pretty cool sponsor. Even, you know, media wise, you know, people look at it and think, oh, that's a cool thing. And it's funny because, you know, it's just a bit of alcohol and that sort of thing, and I obviously don't drink, but you know, so it makes it very hard to market Fireball. But, you know, they obviously don't need to, they don't struggle with marketing because everyone knows Fireball. So yeah, it was cool to pick them up this year, and hopefully I can carry a few more into this year. And obviously I'm riding under another team, so I'll have to work in with the team and try and do what I can to sort of keep giving back. And I know that the team's actually done some deals as well with Link this year as well to bring to the team, which is really cool because Link have always supported me the last few years, and they were one person that, you know, one company that put in a fair bit and had to keep trusting I will be there, just, you know, give me another year or something like that. So like Dom from Link's one of my good mates and that sort of thing, and I love going there and catching up with him, and obviously they helped me out with my helmets and boots and a lot of product from there. So yeah, all these sort of people help the world go round for us races, and without them we'd be pretty buggered. So yeah, it's good.
Love your TCX boots.
I do love my TCX boots. They are great boots.
So I just the end of 21 RT. That's what they call it. So I come from another brand.
Yep.
And bought a set of TCX RTs.
Yeah.
Mate, they are so good.
Nah,
so
awesome boots, yeah.
Good, like nice and strict, but really nice flexibility for everything, you know?
Yeah, they are. But like, I think the good thing about them is they actually look like they have good support too. Like,
Yes.
you know, a lot of boots nowadays, there's so much leather and like not much plastic or not much support.
Correct. Yep.
And like the boots will like fold in half.
You can actually cramp them back.
You can cramp them, and like you wonder like if your foot's in there.
Yep.
You know, like you look at that, and obviously T-Sex has a good amount of support, and the boot looks like it offers good support. So yeah, I'm a strong believer in a good amount of kit and something that holds you up, because obviously with crashes you got to be able to have trust in the product. So yeah, very lucky to be supported by products that are so good, and yeah, definitely gives us that extra trust when we're racing. If we're going to land on our head, oh well, at least we're protected with the right things.
Yeah, 100%. Well, mate, I'll leave you to your day. I'll be out at the 20th. I'm doing some work out there by the looks of things as well. So
awesome.
We'll catch you around.
Okay,
thanks
great.
everything.
Thank you.
That's all we have time for in today's show. If you get the chance, head over to YouTube and hit subscribe on the Talk and Chatter page. Also, head over to iTunes and give us a star rating and a review there. It all helps to get the podcast out there. A big thank you goes to everyone that's been doing this already, and we'll be back with another show soon.